Hello everyone. So today is still another part of the trigonometry section. And yesterday I have taught you about how to prove these three formulas. And now today I'm going to teach you how to use them and when you are dealing with different questions. So today is mainly about doing questions, like questions that you will probably meet in the exam. So now this is the three formulas we covered yesterday, which is sine alpha plus beta equals sine alpha cosine beta plus cosine alpha sine beta, and the cosine one, cosine alpha plus beta equals cosine alpha cosine beta minus sine alpha sine beta. And tangent alpha plus beta equals tangent alpha plus tangent beta over 1 minus tangent alpha tangent beta. Okay, let's start with the easy level questions. Find sine 20 degree cosine 70 degree plus cosine 20 degree sine 70 degree by not using a calculator. Well, if you use a calculator to solve this, I'm sure you can do it, right? So now let's try without using a calculator. Well, see this pattern. It's starting from sine, cosine, then it's cosine, sine. This is the same format as here, sine alpha cosine beta plus cosine alpha sine beta. So what can we do here? Well, of course, we can use the sine compound formulas, which we can conclude that this is equal to sine bracket 20 plus 70. And this is equal to sine 90 degrees, which is equal to 1. This question is quite straightforward by just using this formula. So now let's try a little bit harder question, which is find sine 75 degrees. Well, we know that the only angles that we can find out without using a calculator is angle 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 120 degrees, 150 degrees, and 135 degrees, and so on. So there's no such a thing that is called 75 degrees. So now how do we do this? Now we use the compound formula again. Because we can find sine 30 degrees and sine 45 degrees, we can just write sine 75 degrees as sine 30 degrees plus 45 degrees. And then we use the compound formula, which is equal to sine 30 degrees cosine 45 degrees plus cosine 30 degrees sine 45 degrees. And we know that sine 30 degrees is equal to a half, cosine 45 degrees is equal to 2 square root 2 over 2. Now that is times, plus cosine 30 degrees is square root 3 over 2 times sine 45 degrees is square root 2 over 2. And that is equal to 4 square root 2 over 4 plus square root 6 over 4, which is 4 square root 2 plus square root 6 over 4. And we have solved this problem. And let's try to use calculator to prove that we are correct. That's sine 75 degrees is equal to this number. And let's try square root 2 plus square root 6. And we got the same thing, 0.9659. Yeah, 0.9659. Okay, so now, oh yeah, there's another question. Oh, I was nearly forgot. That find cosine 7 pi over 12. Because there's a pi here, which means that this is written in radian form. What is radian form? We learned this in AS. which means that pi is equal to 180 degrees. So let's think about that. Apparently we can't solve this straightly, so we need to use the same way as we have done here. So let's divide 7 pi over 12 into two different things. Well, because we can solve something like, let's just write cotangent into 1 over tangent 7 pi over 12 first. And now we know that we can solve something like 1 over 3 pi. And we can also solve something like 1 over 4 pi. And these two add together will become 7 pi over 12. So now we can solve it. So we use the compound formula again, which is 10 third pi plus 10 quarter pi, then over 1 minus 10 third pi 10 quarter pi, which will be equal to 1 over 10 well, this is square root 3 2, and which means that 10 third pi is equal to opposite over adjacent, which is square root 3 plus 10. This is 1 1, which is plus 1, and here is 1 minus square root 3, and this is equal to square root 3 plus 1, 1 minus square root 3 over square root 3 plus 1. And let's do some square root 3 minus 1, and here will become negative square root 3 minus 1 bracket square, and that is going to be 3 minus 1, which is 2, and negative bracket 4 minus 2 square root 3, which is negative 2 plus 3, and that is our answer. Okay, so I think here this part you are going to learn later in the course. That's the algebra manipulation. And now let's try some medium level questions. Given that sine A is equal to 12 over 13 and sine B is equal to 3 over 5, where A is an obtuse angle and B is acute, find sine A plus B. Now we have two ways. The first way, we can just using a calculator. So let's calculate what A is equal to. So we use calculator. Well, A is equal to 67.4 degrees. However, here is obtuse, so we need to add something. And because we know these two are the same, so which means that this A can't be equal to 67.4. A has to be equal to this angle. And this angle will equal to 180 minus 67.4, which is equal to 112.6 degrees. And let's do the same thing for B. Well, B is equal to, because B is an acute angle, so we don't need to do these extra steps. So sine negative 1 3 over 5, which is equal to 36.9 degrees. And then we solve for sine 112.6 plus 36.9, and we can get some answer. Let's try this. Sine 112.6 plus 36.9, which is equal to 0.508. And probably there are some round accuracy, but Yeah, but let's just leave like this and let's try the second ways. Well, the second way we need to use our compound formulas now, which is, let's simplify sine A plus B into sine A cosine B plus cosine A sine B. And now, because we know sine A is equal to 12 over 13 and it's an obtuse angle, so in the quadrant circle we know that it is in the second quadrant. And let's draw this triangle, which this is 13 and this is 12, which means this is 5. So we can get that cosine A is equal to negative 5 over 13. And same thing for cosine B. We can get something like, because we know that it's an acute, which means it is in the first quadrant. And this is 5, this is 3, and we know this is 4 by Pythagoras. So which means cosine B is equal to 4 over 5. And now let's use this formula, which sine A is 12 over 13 times cosine B, which is 4 over 5, plus cosine A, which is negative 5 over 3 times sine B. Sine B is 3 over 5. And let's use the calculator, which is 12 over 13 times and we got 0.508 as well. So in both ways we got the same answer, which means both ways are acceptable. Okay, so now I don't think we have time to do other questions. Let's do some other questions tomorrow, shall we? Okay, so that's all for today and see you tomorrow.